phase. Okay. And then you move on to the next phase, and it's cascading. And they are, it's suitable for some projects, it may be less suitable for some other. There are also some risks which might be introduced. So for example, frequently projects are in green early, in all the design and preparation and planning, all that time it's in green, and then the moment the development starts or the integration starts, very frequently it jumps right away to red, because all the problems start bubbling. And that's been quite common. I mention here, which I forgot to mention with the previous slide, that my background is in traditional project management, so I do know both words. And lots of what I'm present here, it's based on my experience as well. And also another risk is that when we try to, we might follow requirements, we might follow what customers told us in the beginning they wanted, but at the end we might actually end up with unhappy customer. So Agile mitigates that risk. Agile mitigates that risk in few ways. First of all, that we are incrementally and iteratively doing a little bit of everything in every iteration. So we plan, design, test, develop and test every iteration and give something to the customer. The first iteration might not be perfect, might be far actually from perfect, and the customer might be like not happy, but then we are getting a feedback. And based on that feedback, we implement, we improve our plan for the next iteration. And the second time, we might get a bit more luckier and the customer is already more content. And again, we get some feedback, and based on that feedback, we implement corrections for the following iteration, and we repeat the process, and we have as many iterations as needed, but we end up with happy customer because we actually deliver what the customer wants. And remember that very frequently vision changes. How many times you wanted something, you were decorating the house, you put your furnitures, and they were like, no, it just doesn't, doesn't like, it looked perfectly in your head, but when you put it in the room, it wasn't functional, it didn't look good, and you change it. And it's the same with requirements. Customer might exactly know at the beginning what they want, but when they see that deliver, like they're not happy. So Agile mitigates that risk. And also Agile mitigates a financial risk, because you iteratively and incrementally deliver something as you go. So you don't have this big bang delivery, and you don't have that problem of integrating everything at the end and seeing how everything fits, because the integration process starts from the beginning. So you from the beginning see how all those puzzles integrate and connect together. Very quickly, just to let you know that I will present at the beginning, and then we'll have time for questions. So if you have any questions, we will have time for it. So please take a note of them and we will go over them. So this is called cone of uncertainty. And basically what it shows at the Waterfall projects, traditional projects, you need to make lots of decisions in this early stage when there is lots of unknown. So you are forced to make decisions when you actually don't understand the complexity of the project as well. So the Agile approach is that we try to make decisions when your hands are already in the code, you in the work, what's the complexity level, what problems and challenges you're encountering. You got some kind of data to validate your way of thinking and so on. So at this point, we make a very, very high level decisions, but closer to the final timeline we can more accurately forecast how we are doing and what we need to do to get there. And just a quick point on this one. In traditional project management, you will have 3 constraints. So time, budget, and scope are always locked, and the quality floats somewhere there and very often is jeopardized. In Agile, you will have only 2 those constraints locked. You have time. which will be locked. You have a budget, which will be locked. And I will explain that in a few slides later. And the scope will be flexible. So for example, if you know that you have to deliver something but that timeline, when you are going, you will be negotiating and thinking what's absolutely crucial and must be done, and what can slip beyond the timeline. But that's kind of mindset that you always, when you have a timeline locked, the scope cannot be locked. Or if you have a scope locked, the timeline has to be flexible. So you can have only 2 constraints out of 3. And the quality is embedded in the development process, in the creation process. So you never jeopardize on quality. This is the official report. There's actually lots of data. Even Project Management Institute was reporting on that as well. So in general, there's lots of evidence that traditional project management is less successful than Agile approach. And that's mainly due to the fact that we are forced to plan and to make decisions at the point that we know the least. And I just wanted to back up what I'm saying with a little bit of official data, but there is official data to advocate for Agile approaches. And actually, you can see here that even the companies which didn't go pure Agile, they adopted just some techniques and tools from Agile, they were also more successful than overall traditional project management. So that's something to think of. And another fact from research, that an average 65% of requirements will change during software development process, causing waterfall projects to have an 11% worldwide success rate during that period, 2011-2015. And those are official statistics. And as I mentioned before, even Project Management Institute now advocates for adopting some Agile approaches within the project management for that reason, to mitigate that risk. So what is Agile? So first of all, Agile is a mindset. It's a set of beliefs, principles, and way of thinking and working together in a particular manner. So it's not only about tools and techniques and methodology, it's both. And Agile is a big umbrella under which you have different tools, frameworks, techniques, methodologies, and so on. And that's what you can see underneath the green line. But above that green line, there is a particular set of values and beliefs. So different methodologies might differ with approaches, but all Agile methodologies will be connected by a set of beliefs they represent. So when we talk about Agile, we're talking about 2 things. We talk about the soft part of it, the cultural aspect of it, and then the methodology, the hard part of it. And many companies, it's a quite common pitfall, focus on tools like techniques without changing mindset. And unfortunately, that approach won't be as successful. So if you want to really see the advantages of adopting Agile approaches, like changing the mindset is important. And this is another picture stating exactly the same. So we start with the mindset. This is about being Agile. And then we go through Agile values, principles, and then at the end, we do Agile, which is about different tools, techniques, and practices. And starting with Agile mindset again. So different angle to it. Why Agile mindset is important? So an Agile mindset is about responding to change in uncertain and turbulent environments. It's about thinking through how you can understand what's going on in the environment, identify what uncertainty you are facing, and figure out how to adapt as you go along. And in the current climate, this is extremely important because we currently live in the VUCA world. VUCA stands volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So when you think about the current environment that we are in with COVID, before COVID, we have Brexit. Before Brexit, we have elections in the US. Depending on the result of each action, you might get completely different effect. So it's very difficult to plan for those circumstances. And for that reason, we need to allow some adaptability in our plans to respond smoothly to those changing circumstances. And for that reason, agile approach would be more successful. So when we talk about Agile, so there was Agile Manifesto created in 2001, I think. Agile actually, some Agile techniques were practiced since 80s. So there is like some paperwork, case studies that you can find on different Agile approaches from 80s. However, officially, Agile was formalized in early 2000s. So Agile Manifesto for Software Development was the first one, and it talks about 4 values. When you remove the terminology relevant to software development, you are getting it's about values which can be applicable to any industry, any team, any sector. So it basically talks about human-centric view and respect for people. So interaction and individuals over processes and tools. So yes, of course, we need some tools and processes, but interactions and human interactions are much more important if we want to be successful. Deliver work and getting feedback from that work is more important than, or more valuable actually, than having comprehensive documentation. So of course we have to document what we are doing, but we document to the level that's useful, but having something done and tangible is much more important. And this is about this incremental delivery. Collaboration and transparency would be the next value. So customer collaboration over contract negotiations. So of course we have contracts because we have to protect ourselves legally, but there is a flexibility in it. So we can negotiate with customers to keep the customer happy. So then we are open-minded. And if the customer wants to change or pivot, we are open-minded for it. Of course, it's not for free. Of course, there will be some discussions and negotiations there, but we are open-minded and we make that process easy as possible. And adaptability and responding to change. So responding to change over following a plan. Of course, we need a plan, but there is a flexibility in the plan. So we are open-minded, and if we need to change, we will welcome that. So those are 4 Agile values. And additionally, we also have 12 Agile principles. So principle number 1 would be about customer centricity. So we aim to satisfy our customers. Delivering something per requirements which fails to satisfy customer, it's not a success story. Then we welcome change because we want to respond to changing environments, and we are open-minded and welcome the change. We deliver frequently because having something tangible is more valuable than doing this big bang delivery at the end, and also mitigates the risk. We collaborate, and like we really closely collaborate. Collaboration in Agile takes completely different dimension that it's perceived in traditional environment. People really are encouraged to work very, very closely in pods together to deliver value. We are coming from the place of trust and support. So there are different theories in place. So one of the theories, theory X, states that people are lazy, people needs to be forced and to perform well and so on. And there is theory Y, which states the opposite, that people just needs to find themselves in the right environment to thrive, and they are actually keen on to do their best, and they really want to thrive, and they want to they can self-direct. So basically, if we create the right environment, the teams, the people will be thriving it. And we are coming from the trust place, and we provide to support to everybody. Face-to-face conversation would be another one, and this is a interesting one, because we will see how that I foreseen that this will change after COVID. So at the moment we've been luckily or unluckily, depends on the perspective, forced into remote working, and in some and we have lots of evidence to prove it's working. So I would say this model will last after COVID. So face-to-face conversation might change to maybe live conversation, video conversation. In the past, Agile advocated for collocation. I don't think that will be the case after COVID, but let's see. as it stands, this is still the principle of Agile. And then working software. So we want to deliver something tangible and incrementally, so we can build our knowledge, we can enhance our learnings, we can reduce the risk. And the next one is about sustainable development. So that's why, and we'll be talking about it in a few slides. For example, one of the Agile frameworks, Scrum, helps. We operate in time box periods, and the project is divided into those time periods. So we try to mitigate the risk of overloading people of work at the end and high pressure just at the end. When there's a timeline, there is lots of work piling up, lots of problems surfacing. We try to mitigate that risk by delivering incrementally, continuously, consistently, and then developing sustainable pace. So through the whole project, we deliver a little bit all the time, and then we do not have to, there is no, the risk of burning out is mitigated. There is also a principle of paying attention to technical excellence. So quality is embedded into the development process. We never jeopardize on quality. Simplicity is the key. So we always look for the simplest solutions, ways of approaching things. Agile is based on self-organized teams. So of course, we're not talking, about chaos. There's some alignment. There are some frames that the teams organize with, but they are self-organized within those frames. And its reflection is a very important element to it, because we cannot improve without allocating time for reflection. So we need to reflect and adjust our course of action. So see if what we are doing is working, or we need to change something. And then, very interesting, according to that there is a statement that it's not the most intellectual of the species that survive. It is not the strongest that survive, but the species that survives in the one that is able best to adopt and adjust to the changing environment in which it finds itself. And this is all statement, we all know it, but actually when you think about the current world, it's actually, when you look at how the world changed, it's very interesting. So the lifespan of, and this is based on the Fortune 500 companies, so big companies, well-established companies. So when you think about it, the lifespan of the company at the beginning of last century was around 15 years. Some researchers say 12, some say 17. 2-3 years this way or that way doesn't make difference, but it's still quite short period of time. Sorry, I make mistake, of course. So the lifespan of the company at the beginning of the previous century was around 70 years, and now dropped to around 12, 15, 17 years. So it's a significant drop. And we are talking about big, big, big names. And if you don't believe me, look at this picture. So on the left-hand side here, you can say all those companies, high brands, very powerful brands, well-established, they all younger than 20-year-old. Some of them, like Revolut, Stripe, would be much younger. TikTok, like a few years old. And then on the right-hand side, you have some really, really strong names in the past, which you don't hear about them. You don't hear about them any longer. Like Hotmail. 15 years ago, nearly everybody had Hotmail email. Do you know now somebody with Hotmail email? A good few years ago, everybody was using BlackBerry. Do you know one person now using BlackBerry? Kodak, Polaroid, the loads of names which are really, really strong, and losing ground to the startups and more dynamic companies. And in the very recent case, for example, look at the PayPal. PayPal had a domineering marketplace among retailers, and now Stripe just is very, very actively and aggressively dominating, maybe not dominating yet, but taking over the market. So this is not fiction. This is a reality of the world that we are currently living in. Having a strong market position today doesn't mean the companies will have it tomorrow. And that's why there is a need to adopting and doing something different, and Agile fills that need. So Scrum, a little bit about Scrum. So Scrum is one of the Agile frameworks. Scrum is actually most commonly used Agile framework. Around 80% of companies, when they talk Agile, they actually talk about Scrum because they use Scrum. And Scrum is a lightweight framework within which people can address complex adaptive problems while productively and creatively delivering products of the highest possible value. And we will talk in a few seconds how this framework is organized and how to do it. But just to also highlight that Scrum also have some values. So 5 Scrum values is commitment, focus, openness, respect, and courage. So it's also about this soft area, cultural change. It's not only about tools and techniques. This mindset, cultural change really matters. So that's how the framework looks like. So basically we have a time period that we select, and it's always consistent. So once we go with that, we don't change it. So it's recommended between 1 week to 1 month. Most companies will go 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, it's been the most optimal. And if you go 2 weeks, you don't change it. You don't, because 2 weeks gives you 10 working days. Yes, sometimes you might have bank holidays and so on. But in general, it gives you some benchmark that you can monitor your performance, because every sprint is the same. So your data, your everything is comparable. If you make one sprint 2 weeks, another 3 weeks, you cannot compare your data, because you're not comparing same for same. So this time box period is called sprint, and sprint starts with the sprint planning. So during the sprint planning, and actually, sorry, before sprint planning, there will be a product backlog created. So it's a list of requirements which are broken into smaller pieces, which are called user stories, and are prioritized. And product backlog, at the top is the highest priority, at the bottom is the lowest priority. And then from that backlog, the team during the sprint planning pulls the stories they believe they can deliver the upcoming sprint based on the past history. So looking at the data, how much they deliver past sprint, they will be able to forecast what they can do the following sprint, the upcoming sprint. So we start sprint with the planning meeting, where we look what value we are bringing, what stories we can bring based on our team's capacity, holidays, training, people's availability, and so on. And then we look how to do those stories. So every story would be broken into smaller tasks, and the team would decide how to execute on that work. And then the sprint starts, and every day of the sprint, the team would meet for 15 minutes. That meeting is called Daily Scrum, and they meet. This meeting is also called informally a short-term planning or alignment meeting. It's about team aligning for the 24 hours how they are going to execute on work to achieve the sprint goal. So the goal that they set for themselves for that sprint. This meeting's been so popular and so actually proven effective that many companies, even those who do not do Scrum, they adopt and do those 15 minutes morning catch-ups just to align the team. This is very crucial meeting because it helps you literally to align everybody on the team. If you have situations that 2 people are duplicating the work, or one person is doing and another person is doing something what clashes with that work, you are not reaching that alignment, that this meeting is not effective. So it's all the focus of that meeting is to align the team for the day, and that's how what's the biggest benefit of it. It's not the status update. It's not for people to share what they're doing. It's for the team to see how they fit, their individual, schedules, how can fit together, and how can they deliver the next, the increment of work. And then at the end of the sprint, we have sprint review. So sprint review involves stakeholders and customers. It's showing tangible, deliver, completely done increment. So whatever you've done that sprint, you demonstrate, and then you gather feedback on it. And then the next Scrum event is called Sprint Retrospective. So during that retrospective, this is your time for reflection. So the team sits together and thinks, how are we working together? What are our practices? How we can improve and get even better the following sprint? And this is extremely important meeting, because without allocating time for reflection, you never can achieve, you never can improve, or you won't improve as well as you would if you dedicated thought into it. And remember that one of the Agile values is continuous learning improvement. So we strive for being better ourselves today than we were yesterday, and this is continuous team. So having that organized meeting and looking how we can get better is very, very important. And then, so those are Scrum events. And then that's the end of the sprint, and we enter the next sprint exactly the same manner by having sprint plan and following exactly the same process. So also we have, it is recommended to have additional meeting where you refine your backlog. So basically all those stories that the requirements which are broken into smaller stories, they need to, the team needs to refine them. So the team sits together, thinks how they might approach the work, what needs to be done there, are there any other dependencies, do the dependencies needs to be removed before we can take the work, and they think, they prepare basically the stories to be ready for the sprint, and this is called definition of ready. So during refinement, the team estimate the work and analyzes the work to prepare them to meet the definition of ready criteria, and also prepare the acceptance criteria. So we need to know when the story is done, and acceptance criteria would help us achieve it. And that during this backlog refinement session, that all would happen. And then in Scrum, we have 3 roles. So we have, in bigger organization, there will be 3 roles. In small organization, there will be accountabilities. So you don't have a dedicated person for each role, but somebody has to cover those accountabilities, those responsibilities. So you would have a product owner. So product owner is a person who shapes creates the vision for the product. So works with the customer and stakeholders on translating customer requirements into those user stories. And product owner will be responsible for vision to make sure that it's executable, it's doable, and working with the team on materializing it, creating it. We will have a Scrum Master. Scrum Master is also quite informally called a process master. So Scrum Master is a person who makes sure that teams gets better, that team is well, that the team, there is the team dynamic is correct. So if there are any conflicts on the team, Scrum Master will be skilled and help in resolving them. Scrum Master will be facilitating different meetings, but also helping the team to grow and get more mature. So for example, by training the team and by coaching the team on good practices, good agile practices, good facilitation techniques, good conflict resolution techniques, and so on. So Scrum Master is half. It's half soft skill job and half about metrics and data and so on. But very often, Scrum Master might get too many teams in their care, and they cannot do their job properly because they will have no time for reflection on this analysis, how to work on the team dynamic and that soft skill area. And this is very important because the team needs to grow to be highly performant teams. So if you do not allow for that growth, you will never have highly performant teams. And there is lots of research that it takes around half year, so 6 months for the team to get to this highly performant state. But this is when the work is done. So you might have some, stances that the teams will be for a year together and they still won't be, they will be at the beginning of their journey because there was no work done in helping them to grow as a team, in bonding, very important, especially now with remote work. the nature of our relation changed to very transactional. In the past, we would have those interpersonal, bonding moments by accident in a canteen, making coffee and so on. Now with remote work, having dedicated time for that bonding time, very, very important. And that's something what Scrum Master would look like. Also, that would be part of the job, and the second job would be looking at the data and evidence. How are we doing? Where we need to improve? Visualizing the work and helping the team to understand what's the best way forward. Also, Scrum Master in general will be the person advocating for agile practice, agile approach. So that person would be working with stakeholders, customers, and making sure they understand what are the benefits and why would be valuable to look at adopting that approach. And then we have the third role, which is the team itself. So the team in Agile, we have Scrum team. So Scrum team is product owner, Scrum Master, and the team. And we have the team of doers. So everybody who has their hands on and it's doing stuff, it's called, it's on that team. Okay, and I think that's it. And at the end of every sprint, we are expected to deliver a tangible, potentially shippable product of work increment. So it might be not perfect, it might be far from perfect, especially early in the program, but it's something what is done and it's tangible. So we won't have a sprint called analysis. We won't have sprint called design. That's not how it works. Every sprint we are expected to provide something tangible. So that's obviously very, very brief summary. So that was a Scrum. Another very popular framework is Kanban, and Kanban is very much about visualizing the work and creating smooth flow. It helps with that. So this is a very simplified Kanban board. So it has 2 columns: to do, doing, and done. Many teams use that one and sufficient. More sophisticated Kanban board would be to put, to visualize every step on the journey. So every step that you have to take to get the work to the next level, it's visualized here. And then those numbers that you see here, that's a limited work in progress. So in Agile, we value focus. So we know there is a cost of distraction, multitasking, and rapid task switching are very expensive. And in Kanban, we allow for focus by limiting work in progress. In Scrum, we have a sprint goal. So we also narrow our vision to the sprint goal and work only on the sprint goal during one sprint. And then the work flows, from the left to right, and then we can see how we are doing, where are bottlenecks. It just helps us to visualize the work. And also by narrowing the work in progress, limiting the work in progress, we are encouraging the collaboration. So Agile team would be cross-functional, so it means would consist people from different functional areas, but also people need to be multi-skilled. So everybody will have one expertise area, deep knowledge area, but also will be a generalist in other areas. And this way people can help each other. So for example, if here we see that reviews start being a bottleneck, nobody can start working on anything else until they will help with reviewing. So we will, like in Agile, we would create a conscious decision about multi-skilling and upskilling the team members, so everybody can help with those activities. With less mature teams, it might be not feasible at the beginning, but it is expected that with time, mature teams will have a level that people can help each other and unblock each other. So we try to remove single point of failure, single points of sensitivity. So the work, if somebody goes for 3 weeks holidays, we still can progress with the work, even though they are not there, because other people can, jump in and help out. And there are some rules also and regulations around Kanban board. So just going back. So in Scrum, definition of done would guard the quality. Here we would have policy lines. So we would discuss at the team level what needs to happen for the work to move from one line to the other line. So we know that A, B, and C needs to be done before, for example, we need to move it to review. And then once review passed and there is no comments, blah blah blah, 1, 2, 3, then only then the work can move to the next line. So those regulations are called policy lines. So we in Agile, as I mentioned before, like quality is really important, and we do guard quality. We do not let quality to slip. So again, summarizing what I already said, Kanban will help you to visualize the work and create this smooth workflow. Hopefully, the flow of the work. One of the principal rules is to limit work in progress, so to create a focus. Also, we have a pull mechanism. So we have a backlog, product backlog, like the same like in the Scrum, and the team pull the next highest priority item into they work whenever there is the capacity. So we do not have situations that management assigns work to people and force people and people feel overloaded. They take the work whenever they're ready. So when I finish my work and there is nobody else I can help out, I will take the next piece of item, a work item. Oh, sorry, that was accidentally, okay. And we also create the Slack. So Slack is very important. We never plan for 100% of capacity, because if you utilize 100%, you get what you get, for example, on the road. If you utilize the road to 100%, you have car park. There is no movement. So to create movement, we do need to create Slack. So we need to plan for less. It's recommended to plan around 80% of the capacity and leave 20% for emergency and other emergent work. Yeah, and when you visualize the work, it helps you to see where are the bottlenecks, who is our single point of failure, who is this expert who holds all the knowledge, and then you can work on it, and you can have some action plan how to mitigate that risk in the future, how to upskill people, and so on. But it basically helps you to see where are your weak points in the system. And one word, to summarize, because it's very important, that sometimes people think that by adopting Agile, all the worries will disappear. That's not going to happen. Agile, because of its nature of early incremental delivery, will help your problems to surface, and you will see and experience your challenges much earlier. But you still need to act on them. You still need to resolve them. So Agile is not going to resolve your problem for you. It will just help you. It will mitigate a risk by visualizing them much earlier in the process. Okay, and that's pretty much it on my part. And I would like to answer any of your questions.
Thank you so much, Joanna. That was really, really interesting. It's amazing, just how much there's involved in it, and I'm sure you could go on and on for hours, and it would just get even more and more interesting. So yeah, really, thank you so much for that. So yeah, definitely open up the floor to some questions. I just do want to let everyone know that I have recorded this, and so if anybody did want the recording, I'm going to pop my email into the chat. I don't have access to Sue's contact, so I'm just going to pop my email into the chat, send me an email, and then I can send the recording on. And Joanna, I don't know, do you have the slides that could you share them with us, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I will create a PDF and I will send you PDF later on.
That would be brilliant. Okay, yeah. So guys, yeah, if anybody is interested in that, just shoot me an email that I've sent on to you now. So yeah, if anybody does have any questions, just fire away.
No questions. So just before actually, to give you a second, to have any questions, just to let you know that Agile and lean approaches were very successfully used in software development, in IT, and manufacturing. But now they've proven to be so effective, they're actually moving to different industries, and they are becoming much more popular in non-IT industries. And there is benefits of them, across different sectors. So this is something, to think and see if it's, if it might bring your organization benefit. Agile is not for every project. Not every project can be carried that way. For example, regulatory projects. If you have a regulatory project, it's pretty much upfront, what needs to be executed. There is no point then changing the setup and trying with Agile. But pretty much any other project that deals with a little bit of unknown or volatility of our market at the moment will be suitable for agile approach, agile adoption.
I suppose mine's not really a question. Mine is more a statement or thought I had while you were discussing the kind of early on part of your presentation. And you're talking about the face-to-face communication and how important that is in the framework for Agile, and how that's obviously been brought into question with COVID and everything, and all of these kind of online platforms. And I suppose that does open up an opportunity now. And I mean, this is where we are now, is in immersive technologies. You've got your sitting room behind you, even though you're in your bedroom. So yeah, I suppose there'll be a nice overlap there with an agile project management with the framework and with immersive technologies, and how they're going to kind of work side by side. And yeah, so that was just something that came to mind. I thought, oh, that's
yeah,
really interesting.
I have to say, I think there's lots of overlap. So in the company that I'm currently contracting with, some teams are actually experimenting with virtual technology, and they are doing these daily scrums over those glasses in virtual reality. So I think, there is a huge actually overlap there. Yeah.
We have a question here. I think people might be muted, so I'm going to, can anybody, do people have permission to unmute themselves and they can ask questions, they can jump in? But we do have a question here. Have you seen Agile PM used in healthcare programs? Can you see the chat, Joanna?
Yeah, I can. Okay, give me a second.
That was from Anna.
Yeah. So I haven't worked in the healthcare industry myself, but there is lots of case studies. So if you're interested, if you research it, I'm sure you will find relevant case studies, because Agile was used successfully across healthcare industry as well. So definitely yes, but I don't have experience, so I cannot be speaking on that. Sorry. I've been across many industries, but not healthcare yet.
Yeah, I think it's something that would be very essential and useful in Ireland at the moment, because I think yeah, a lot of scrambling and poor communication and that kind of stuff. And I suppose with our two-tier kind of private public healthcare system, I think having a project management tool like that would open up conversations maybe.
Yeah. Remember that Agile is more than tool. Agile is about values, and what I think what would help here, it's about, for example, transparency of information. So in healthcare, you have those, there's lots of issues, and very often we find out about them, when it's too late. So there is some core values, when you look at customer centricity would be very, very important. So next question that you have here about marrying lean, healthcare, and agile. So for example, both agile and lean will have customer centricity at the heart. of all the operations. And when you think, you know, you look at how the vaccine programs are done around the world, and some you know, countries, you just come in and go and you are very happy, and some others, like, you queue for the whole night to get the vaccine. You know what I mean? So I think there is loads there that can be applicable. And like, as I said, like, this is what I just said, like, I've learned it from the newspapers. So if you look at that, definitely, you know, you will find loads of around the different values. When you look at the values, you will start seeing how we could organize differently. Also, Agile would help you if you visualize that work. If you have a queuing system, if you have some kind of system that you visualize, when you put value stream mapping and you realize it, what's the journey like, then you start immediately seeing your bottlenecks, your problems areas, and then when you know where to focus on, what to improve on. I would say that in context of healthcare, a theory of constraint would be very, very applicable. But you need to understand it before, you know, like, you need to understand where your bottlenecks are before you can enable them or resolve them. Very nice marriage. Okay, very good. Yeah, loads of Anna, loads of values between lean and agile will be same. So very often people put lean versus agile. It's not one or the other. Both complement each other, and they nicely go together. And many values will be shared between both of them. Any more questions? Last chance to ask a question.
No, I think, yeah, I think yeah, everyone's good. Okay, so that was brilliant, Joanna. Thank you so much for coming along and for chatting with us today. And yeah, so hopefully we'll be agile masters as well by the end of all this, and we do some more of our homework, and we can influence into our own project management yeah, futures. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, you too. Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye. Thank you. Jess?
Yeah.
Do you, oh, you're still recording?
Still recording us.